explain in layman's terms how the ATS system works?
Yes, so it's a tracked channel system that goes under the taxiway to take aircraft from the runway to the gate and back to the runway without the use of the main jet engines. So the aircraft would depart the runway to the taxiway where our system would be waiting. It would drive up onto what we call the tow dolly. The tow dolly is nothing more than a lazy Susan with chocks on it. So it drives up on it, chocks that nose landing gear. At that point, the pilot shuts off the jet engines and it starts saving fuel, emissions, noise. We have positive control of the aircraft so it can't deviate from the channel, and it's a safer way to move people around the airport. So what we are is a technological leap beyond the current technology. It's not just a shift, but it's a leap. A shift is they're taking those tugs and making them electric now. We don't use tugs, we don't use tow bars. We declutter the gate area, and so it's a safer environment for the aircraft also. But it's just a different technology, it's a different way to move planes around the airport. It's not just changing the way we're doing business, it's a technological leap. There's two ways that we improve the safety of the airside operations. One is there is no tug and tow bar and crew that you need to move an aircraft. So don't need a marshalling crew, you don't need someone out there driving the tug, you don't need somebody out there that's going to disconnect the tow bar. When the aircraft pushes back, you don't have to stop it to unhook the tow bar and the tug from it. The aircraft is on our channel and so it cannot deviate from the pattern. We know the envelope of the aircraft, and so there's no way for it to collide in anything. That's the second way, is that we have positive control on that plane so it can't collide into something. We have sensors on our tow dollies, so if a dog or a cow or a truck turns in front of the aircraft, it slows it down immediately, and all the aircraft behind it. So it's a much safer area, and we declutter the gate area. There's not all the clutter that's there now, and that's a huge initiative in the US with the FAA, is to declutter the gate area, and we're the only option out there that really does that. So we would integrate with all of those. We integrate with the air traffic control, we integrate with maintenance, we integrate with the ground control, and our system is a totally automated system. The maintenance aspect of it, we have one Airlines that we've been talking to in the US, American Airlines, that does maintenance 1.25 miles away from the terminal. And it takes them up to 16 people to move that 1.25 miles to move the aircraft. When the aircraft come in and overnight, they do opportunistic maintenance on them. And with our system, when we explained it to them, they loved it. They said, oh man, we love this, we'd like to have it, because they could move that same aircraft with one person in a much safer environment. But so in that maintenance aspect, we can move aircraft much easier without people, and it's a safer way to move it. The integration with the ground control and air traffic control would come with our systems, because what we do is we're taking this totally manual system that's out there today. Most people don't realize it, but when an aircraft lands, it's typically handed off between 4 different individuals before it ever reaches the gate, and about 80% of the time, the pilot drives the aircraft autonomously, just where he's supposed to go. With our system, we automate that. We eliminate the human error part of that. It's just automating this manual system. And we do that through our software package that would integrate in with both the air traffic control and the ground control. They all have input into where the aircraft is and where it moves, and we optimize those movements. In fact, we had Oklahoma State University look at our system because we wanted to make sure we weren't a slower way to move aircraft around. And they said, no, in fact, you're just as quick, if not quicker, because by optimizing this and not having to stop to unhook tow bars and tugs, it's a quicker way to move aircraft around. And they calculated that we could improve throughput in airports up to 30% without adding a single gate if the airport's not runway constrained. So those are the ways that we would integrate in with the current operations at airports today. Yeah, so what ATS does, it allows the aircraft pilot to totally shut his engines off as soon as he departs the runway. And those engines are off all the way to the gate, and when it's time to push back, those engines are off all the way to the runway, except for prior to 3 to 5 minutes, they spool up the engines, they do the pre-flights, and they're good to go. The average taxi time in the US is 16 to 27 minutes. The majority of the commercial fleets out there in the US are made up of either 737s or A320s. Those aircraft burn about 9 gallons of fuel per minute. The average taxi time is 16 minutes, And if an airport could have up to 500,000 to 1 million movements per year, so you take the 9 gallons times 16 minutes times however many movements times $4 or $5 a gallon, it's a huge savings in fuel alone. And then you look at the emissions. So at that same time, that fuel is not being burned, no emissions are going into the atmosphere. It saves thousands of tons, of metric tons of emissions that go into the atmosphere because those engines are not running during that taxi time. So our system is both environmentally friendly and it saves money for the consumers and for the airlines and airports. And we offer 3 options with training. So we will be there every step of the way. We pre-train their employees. It depends on how the airport wants to operate the system. And we envision that there's probably 3 ways to do it. Some have already told us they'd like to hire a third party. So a third party would come in, operate the system, maintain the system, and they would be an expert at the system. Others say we would like to have our current employees operate and maintain the system. We offer extensive training. We have the maintenance training, we have operational training, we have management training where we be with them every step of the way to ensure that the system operates in the proper manner that it should. And then we will offer a service that after the training is over with, where if they have questions or need on-site help, we're available 24/7 for that piece of it. I think the future looks tremendously bright. We've already been approached by other people to say, can you move baggage around? I've been working with 2 different military operations to move aircraft in and out of hangars that are really tight constraints. I think that the world is ripe with this. In fact, I have a lot of my friends that say, why in the world are you messing with this? And I say, how many times in your lifetime do you get to be a part of something where you could possibly change the world? I mean, we've got to move aircraft differently. Aircraft move today the same way they did 100 years ago, and that's with their own power. And it needs to be where they don't have to use their jet engines to move around airports. That's what drives me to do this.